I love designing. It's never felt like a job ever. I can't remember the latest number. I think it's about 43, 44 designers at Revolut.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Oh, wow.
If I ever see one of my designers on Pinterest, I'm always a bit like, get off Pinterest, because it's just like...
Welcome to the KLIMB Podcast. Today we have Gareth, Head of Global Brand at Revolut. In this episode, we'll share about a ton of things, his background as a creative in design studios, and of course, what he does today at Revolut, and how do they look at brand in general. So hopefully this episode is going to be super interesting for you. So have a look at it, and please tell us in the comments what you think. Thank you. Welcome, Gareth. I'm super happy to have you on the KLIMB Podcast. We chatted a little before, but I think I'm going to be super curious about your background and what you did and what you're doing today. It's a good thing for me because it's going to be all a surprise. And so super happy to have you on. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. It's been, like you said, we messaged a few times, didn't we? And I'm glad we finally found time. You're 5 days in London to squeeze in a podcast.
Yeah. I'm trying to do a bunch of podcasts. As I said, we have some coming up with Lovable, Pigment, as I said, the financial analysis tool. Also did last week one with the marketing lead at Notion. So I'm trying to get a
really varied,
a good picture of the tech ecosystem, and then I think I will also try to have people in design, branding, marketing roles, but also I think in other industries, you know, potentially like, I don't know, Nike, Netflix, other brands, also to get an overview of how things operate in different companies. But anyway, the first thing, of course, I'm curious about is to learn a bit about you, where you're from in general. You can go back to your childhood, but how whatever you want to share. It's really just about how did you end up being a designer and working on brand topics.
I won't go back too far. I'm from the middle, like East Midlands, so Lincolnshire, which is a very farm-based part of England, and not much of a design tech area at all. And I think just through school, I just developed this love for drawing and weirdly brands. I think, the late 90s was like brand centric for me. It was like all the sports brands. I was obsessed with like bands having logos as well. So there was this love for design in general, and I studied in Manchester. I did my first few jobs in Manchester, working for agencies, small agencies, doing websites in Flash, which is going back a long time. I
started with HTML and CSS, not Flash.
We were doing it in Flash, and it was. Looking back at it, like it was such a longer way of working because everything was just slower, and so many more things are automated nowadays. So I started in Manchester and I moved to London about 10 or 11 years ago. So it's been a decade in London, and I've always worked in branding agencies, mostly quite small, medium-sized, and then I think 2017 I went freelance. And that really opened up a lot of doors for me. Like I worked in some amazing studios around London. Really got to see how other studios work, and I landed at Olins, which, as you know, is a top creative agency, and I spent the best part of 4 to 5 years there. So definitely learned a lot from like a creative point of view at Olins. Elevated sort of the design angle to something more thoughtful and provocative, and just trying to really unpick briefs. I always look back at that time as like the one job that really changed how I approach branding and brands. And then cut to maybe 2 years ago, had my first child, and it just created a bit of a change for me. I started to think about longevity of like career, and also an emphasis change on creating brands every 4 to 5 months to what would it be like working solely on one brand, beyond the guideline, beyond that first batch of assets.
Yeah.
And just as I was thinking that, and Revolut approached me, and I'm here now. That's the story. And I joined as and joined as a designer. Became head of brand within 6 months, and that's how I got into the role.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
One question that pops is, are you still designing? And if not, how do you see your role evolving as you grow into your career?
Am I on the tools?
Yeah.
No, it's a tough balance. After 15 plus years of, I love designing. It never felt like a job ever. And I was always very keen to get on the tools. And going into that head of brand role, there's about, I can't remember the latest number. I think it's about 43, 44 designers at Revolut.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Oh, wow, I didn't expect that.
It's mixed. There's a mix of graphic designers who, composition, layout, and general brand, and then there's 3D illustration artists.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we're
with
very
the cards
3D. Copywriters. I probably missed industrial designers as well, like the machine-led sort of card production and stuff. It definitely was, or it still is, a work in progress to sort of, help direct and lead the design rather than being on the tools.
Okay, I see. And because you've seen what it's like working with agencies and in agencies, how I'm always curious about this is like, I'm working with clients, but like for now, our biggest customers are like about 1,000 employees, for instance. They have about 1,000 employees. But still, they're working with external partners. And so I'm wondering at the scale of, for instance, Revolut, when does it make sense to internalize a skill versus working with an external partner?
Yeah, it's a conversation we have a lot. There's over 10,000 employees at Revolut now. But we definitely know our lane. As a creative department, as a company, there's so much ambition. I think that's why I've enjoyed that transition from agency to in-house, because Revolut doesn't feel traditional in-house. It's the ambition is high. That sort of appetite to do more internally. Like I said, a big team, a very talented team. There's lots of talent there that better than some talent I've seen agency. And so there's a really strong appetite to do more in-house, but we have to manage that. I think sometimes leadership can get maybe too far ahead of themselves, and we're currently negotiating, like, if we're doing a big out-of-home campaign, do we engage one of our partner studios on the idea, the TV advert, and then, does it shift in-house and we take the out-of-home in-house, or general advertising like social or performance marketing? So we do like to do as much as we can, and it's a working balance really of like who sets that initial idea. We're very much involved. That's kind of my role, is to make sure that original idea ticks a lot of boxes for Revolut. But we're still partnering up with agencies, and that's advertising. Experiential is a completely different beast, where we're doing lots at Primavera and Seagate music festivals, stuff like that, Man City partnerships. And again, I think the working model at Revolut is try it and go into that space and try and get those opportunities, and then we figure out how we're going to do it. And so we have started hiring lots of internal brand activation, brand experience. That's sort of how we show up in the physical realm. But again, we lean on agencies a lot in that space.
Okay, I get it. You mentioned a few things And I want to dive a little bit more about your scope, because brand means a lot of different things. And when I'm thinking of Revolut, I'm seeing brand activations on with my favorite YouTubers, for instance. I'm seeing, of course, some ads. I'm a customers as well. What is exactly your role at Revolut when it comes to branding?
Right, I'm with you.
And what does it mean working on brand at Revolut?
Okay.
In general.
Yeah, I mean, the brand of Revolut has changed a lot. You probably noticed it even in the last 12 months. It shifted heaps. We had a new product in the start of 2024. So the whole app experience, the web experience, it was done in a year. And to go with that, a whole visual change as well. So like the logo change, the typeface, the color palettes. So 2024 started as we have this new identity, and how do we roll it out? How do we test it and see if it works, and learn from those tests? And in true Revolut style, it was tested within months. We did a huge campaign taking over airports within Europe. Maybe you've seen some bits and bobs, and we learned very quickly that the brand, which was all done internally, was maybe speaking to a slightly outdated version of Revolut. It was that sort of disruptive challenger bank aesthetic that we all know, that bright colors, really bold, witty humor. And what was new to us last year was obviously Revolut was going in very different places, like far more ambition in terms of our user base was about to hit 50 million. We were going to extend into over 35 markets, banking licenses, all these things were on the horizon. So we pivoted very quickly within months of just launching this whole new identity. So my role was to explore what that meant. Going from everyone's idea of Revolut as this disruptive challenger to a more trusted global offering that had like sophistication and maturity. We want people to use Revolut as their primary bank. So your salary goes into Revolut, your mortgage gets paid out of Revolut. So generally more than just your bank for when you're abroad on holiday. So with that, it was just a whole 12 months of rethinking what the brand stood for. From a brand identity perspective, it was maturing the brand, like using different cuts of the typeface and reducing that color palette so it wasn't as bright and bold. We looked at the tone of voice, but then also just like where we showed up. We were really picky about like who we're partnering with and what we do and when we launch. And so it's been a whole 12 months and we're still going. It's an ongoing thing, and we're constantly asking ourselves every day, does this feel premium? Does it feel like mature and sophisticated? It's a constant question we're asking ourselves.
Talking about sophistication, I want to touch base on what you recently announced this week or last week. I mean, during South by Southwest, I think, about this new product that you're launching. Can you tell us a bit more about it and what was maybe your involvement in this project?
With the ATM?
Yeah, with the ATM. Yeah, of course.
I mean, it's like old news to me. I've been on it for like 12 months. It's one of those where you've been working on it for so long. No, it's super exciting. It's I think one journalist quoted it as like Revolut finally showing up on the streets. It's one of many things that we're looking into in terms of outreach and being able to make contact with non-consumers and turn them into users of Revolut. And the best way to do that is to be present. And so the ATM, traditionally a very functional
outdated
piece, very outdated, And Revolut, we would never go into that and just do another ATM. It's more pointed. So, the Revolut way of thinking or approaching that is to, can it dispense cards. If you're not a user, you can still go and use it. You can use your non-Revolut bank account, but you can also sign up, and it will also, you can grab a card.
You could grab a card.
Yeah,
okay. Like a prepaid something, or like a proper
it's
account?
like you'll sign up.
Okay.
You'll get a code, tap it on the screen, and
that's nice.
It's like a vending machine.
Nice.
So yeah, that's classic Revolut. It's like if we're gonna do it, like what makes it interesting, what makes it different from the norm, and we've launched in Barcelona, Madrid, and it will expand. But yeah, just getting out there and being present for people to start using Revolut and get involved.
Yeah, I love that. I think it reminds me of the approach that has Apple when it comes to launching a product. They go like, we want to do different from what the norm in general. Yeah. And I like that approach.
Yeah, it definitely, I don't think anything that Revolut does is to join an already existing product or offering. It's always, we always have so many conversations about if we're going to do this, like how is it better?
Yeah.
Like we're having that discussion about mobile plans at the minute. And how do we make that plus? How do we make it Revolut, give more to our users?
Okay.
And my involvement with the A-Team was, I mean, there was so many stages to it. There was working with product designers, industrial designers. So much of that 12 months was spent figuring out the dimensions, and is it a standalone thing or is it through the wall experience? But it did, I mean, brand obviously come into it from a, if we're using lighting, is it smart? Does it, do we have different modes for like, appealing to someone to get them to come to it? And then when you're there, does it tone down a bit so it's more subtle?
Okay.
On-screen graphics as well. So it became a very graphic experience, towards the end. And obviously with the launch and stuff, we were trying to develop as much hype and appeal as possible. So,
okay. Yeah. Cool. I can't wait really to see it in the streets. Really.
Yeah, I think they're at Primavera now. If you're going to Primavera next week or whatever, people are already using it.
Nice. I do have a lot of different questions. One being one about the website and the import and how to. I mean, one about the website, one about hiring, and then some others. Do you want to talk about website or hiring?
Start with website.
Website.
Keen to know what you're going to ask.
So super simple. It's like always when I'm looking at big B2C consumer brands, even though you also have a B2B approach to banking, I'm always wondering how important is the website versus like your app, because most of the people, they just get to know you by your app, ads and stuff, and then they just download the app and that's it. They pretty much never land on your website. And so it's a bit like the same thing for Uber. Like people don't go on Uber website, they just use the apps. And so what's your approach to the website in general when it comes to Revolut?
I think I totally agree. I think I'm the same. If I interact with a completely new brand, it's probably App Store, get the app, completely bypass the whole web experience. But I think what's really important is that you don't lose users in that flow. If they happen to come on your website, you want it to be the best example of your brand possible. And so, no stone unturned. We put a lot of effort into the web page. It's definitely not like a secondary thing. It's different markets as well. I think certain markets their natural habit is to do what is to go through the store and just download it and crack on with your day. But I think a lot of other markets will be driven to the website first.
Yeah, Googling.
Exactly. So we do. It definitely still has a really strong, meaningful presence for us, and a lot of our advertising will send people to the site, because that's where, if we're doing like the airport campaign that I mentioned, if you scan that QR code, it takes you to the site, which will then give you a code, and that's how you'll start your account and get your first card and stuff. So it's definitely really important in that flow of sign-ons. Yeah, and I think in general, from a brand perspective, it just you just wouldn't want to miss that out from the full suite of how we show up.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Mm.
I believe. I mean, this is my my job, of course. So I believe like the website is the reflection of your brand and the quality of your product, definitely. So
Yeah.
couldn't agree more. And about my question about hiring this time is, now that you're in this position of managing a big team of designers and so on, what are you looking for when you're hiring designers in your team? And what would be like potentially a piece of advice for people like looking to have that kind of jobs?
It depends on the role or the employer that people are going for. I think with the most natural move for me going from Olins to Revolut was that they share a similar, I mean, obviously very different things completely, but they share the similar angle of or lens of what they want their employees to really like embody, which is I think just challenging the norm and a brief, or not just seeing a brief or a challenge and just doing what is expected. So it's been very natural for me to then go into this role and hiring, and when I meet people, it's definitely the first thing I look for is if you're showing me work, like how did you react to that brief, and how is this different to anything else on the market, or have I seen it before? Or it's definitely something we're doing with Revolut is building more of a brand ethos and getting away from being too strict with our brand application. So, and I think that takes quite a type of designer to kind of let go of being too strict with the brand. I think traditionally we're all taught like, logo is precious and it needs to be on every piece of comms or in a certain place for consistency. Consistency is driven into a lot of designers, and I think that's all well and good. But I think with Revolut being at the stage where it's at now, I think a lot of brands at our scale are kind of shifting emphasis into the vibe that they give off. I hate that word, but that's sort of the appeal or the feeling that comes with a brand. So a lot of our team already embody that. That's sort of like, okay, what do we do that's different? It still feels Revolut. It still speaks to our values or our goals, but to the user, it feels like fresh content. It doesn't feel like another piece of comms that looks exactly like the last one. So I definitely, when I meet people, I try and get a sense. It's hard because it's all virtual, and but I try and get a sense of, are they the type of person that will start every project with why, and how is this different, and how does
Simon Sinek.
Yeah, how do you get that feeling across? Yeah,
I get it. Okay, and linked to that, actually, it makes me think of when you receive like a piece of design. What's your way of approaching feedback? How do you give feedback, and what's your advice on giving feedback? Because there is this thin line between being subjective and being objective at the same time.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's always worth considering where the stage of that project and where it's at. I'm definitely one to let designers explore, and I kind of stand back a bit for the first share, maybe. I'll try and give pointers, or like, have you tried this, and try and be as helpful in terms of their exploration.
How do you manage feedback?
Yeah, I'll try and be supportive of exploration initially, and then as that project progresses, I'll start to give more direct feedback and more actionable feedback. But in general, I think it's just super key for designers to explore, and it kind of links to what I just said about a designer's mindset. I think it's never the first idea in my experience, and I think it's ideation and exploration, and I don't know, like speaking to that copywriter, what's their point of view, that it doesn't just come from me. I always try and loop in as many people to like when a design's at a certain stage. I want different point of views. I want to hear what the strategist thinks, or the growth marketing person thinks, because it's always really worth having those extra opinions. So yeah, in general, it's I think my angle is explore, and then come up with make sure you've explored every possible angle. Like, are you leaning into color? Are you leaning into typefaces? Is it tone? What's the thing that feels different from the norm? And then I'll invite different voices to the table. Yeah.
Okay, I see. Because you talked about exploration and so on, and I'm always wondering the kind of companies like Revolut. Most of the time, when they ship something, it helps also the market to create some kind of new trend in designs, in the way you approach your website, the way you approach your communications, and so on. And so, as a brand specialist and a designer, how do you approach trends in general? And are you really looking at the next trend? And how do you try to build the next trend?
Yeah, good question. This is going to get a lot of cliche responses. I try not to focus too much on what other agencies are doing or other brand of fintechs are doing. I know that sounds so textbook, but we don't generally have conversations about what other banks are doing.
Okay.
And that's it runs through the whole business. No one really talks about it. There's discussions around a certain bank's done a certain offer, or functional stuff. Yeah. But in brand, it's I always say get inspiration from
get to be creative.
New places. I don't think you'll ever find a unique creative vision from looking at the same blog as everyone else, or the same places as everyone else. Okay. I always, maybe you want to cut this. I'll say it just to get it out of my system. But if I ever see one of my designers on Pinterest, I'm always a bit get off Pinterest, because it's just
Actually, I think this is the sub question. Well, how do you find inspiration?
Yeah, it's from, I genuinely try and, myself, I'll try and find it from anywhere.
Okay.
I don't know, at the minute, the stage I'm at with 3 very young children, strangely enough, I'm finding inspiration from wild places, design aimed at kids. And it kind of, what I'm taking from that is a mentality, a playfulness, simplicity. You can definitely pull inspiration from different places based on where you are. I don't live in central London, and I miss every day seeing branding in a very natural way, not on a website when you're scrolling, but just being on, top deck of a bus and just going past billboards. And I think what really is important is having that diversity in your team, that you have certain people, you're getting different inspirations from different places and walks of life.
Okay.
And that's why I think when you encourage different voices, you get different angles. It all kind of comes together. But yeah, if I see someone on Pinterest, I generally try and close their tabs.
I'm going to create a snippet with this one. Get out of Pinterest.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because, of course, we use Pinterest. We use, many others. But sometimes, I'm always when I'm on Pinterest, let's say, I'm everyone is looking at the same thing in the end. And so everyone is going on Pinterest. Type a keyword and you find pretty much the same stuff.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering, how do I get sometimes inspiration? And sometimes it's just also by I think, asking questions directly to your, being in your case, your users, but it can be your personas, your customers, and just trying also to get some of the story really behind what they are building, and not just what is a quick benchmark on the market. This is looking good. Cool, I can potentially apply it.
I think that's the storytelling and the idea. And It's spoken about so much, but I know how easy it is as a designer to strategy and concept and story, and then all of a sudden you just want to get on the tools. You just want to create. And I think so many conversations I've had in my career, even at Olins and at Revolut, where somebody will say, "Oh, I've seen this project. It looks a little bit similar to what you're doing." And my first reaction isn't okay, let's start again. It's okay. Well, what are they selling? What's their story? How is ours different? Hopefully we've baked our idea in a really strong purpose or a strategy. Because usually in that occasion, if that's the case, and we have done a lot of upfront work, it doesn't matter because you've built it on something solid. And visually, okay, maybe, I can't remember the saying, but it's all been done. And visually, it's just like how do you make it feel different and stand for something new as opposed to constantly striving for a completely new aesthetic. It's a weird grey area. I totally get that, but I think that's why you have to start with, is the idea good to even start with, and is it going to help that consumer? I think the thing at Revolut that's helped me most is we have 50 million consumers, and they are the first thing that we think about in every brief. Is this project even worthwhile? Is it going to benefit them? How will it benefit them? Is a really long website until you get to the call to action, is that useful, or do you just hit them with it straight up because they're speed times
they
and
will know what to do?
So in general, I think it comes back to just having a really strong core idea and a belief that if someone then questions your design, if you can react and be like, well, I'm confident in what we've done because it stands for the right thing, it's the right answer to the brief, and typically that's like the best place to be when you get comparisons.
I get it.
And
it makes me think about one question that I have to ask it, of course. What's your take on AI? And how does it change really your job and the job of your designers, and how do you embrace it or not?
It's the hot topic. We've really not lent into it. It's been a very apparent thing in the last quarter. Everyone seems to have a license now. I'm generally for it if it's used in the right way. I think, again, it's been said a lot, but I think AI as a tool, brilliant. But it's. I think what I am finding is not to get carried away based on the result. I think we all have that moment where it's like it's still new to us, and we're all still amazed that you can put a few codes in, a few prompts, and you get something that it's mind blowing because it is genuinely like, wow, where are we going with this? But I keep insisting, like, get past that feeling because it's too easy to have that feeling and think, okay, this is amazing. Let's push it live. When really it hasn't got what we just said, that story, it hasn't got
the context.
And if it's, I don't ever want Revolut to be that brand that is using it because everyone else is. And I want to make sure that if we're using it, it's to support a strong idea, like ideation. We use it as a tool to get to the end state, as opposed to being super excited about it and thinking that's our job done. Because that's the risk, isn't it? You end up then with designers that have been undervalued, or I don't know, shortcomings really. So I'm coming at AI from, I think, a later millennial point of view, which is like obviously useful, but let's use it in the right way and not depend on it too much, I think.
I think I'm using it the same way as well. When it comes to, for instance, just in general, strategy and thinking about context of my customer, trying to write the the right story, I'm having a hard time to just rely on AI because it doesn't. I think it's not. It's just bringing me its source of truth and not really the one that I'm looking for. But at the same time, when it comes just to being much more productive and scaling our design production, it's kind of crazy what you can land with AI. Yeah. So yeah, it's just a matter of how you use it and just really how do you rely on it. I think we've covered a lot of the Revolut stuff, but I do want to get some piece of advice from you when it comes to running an agency, because you've seen it. You've worked with many different agencies. Of course, you've worked at Olins, and so I just want maybe one quick question that can make the transition between Revolut and the agency world is what were potentially for you the key differences that you identified as working with an agency on so many different brands, whereas working on one single brand.
What was the key difference?
Yeah.
Good question. Honestly, I think it's just a different muscle. When I left Olins, our MD mentioned this. It's a very different muscle. I hadn't really worked in-house. I'd done stints at Google and TikTok like everybody.
Okay.
But I hadn't really ever done a long tenure in-house. And this idea of it being a different muscle was confusing at the time, but actually it's so true. Now, having done it for over a year, when you're in agency, obviously it's about exploration and you're pushing for the right thing for that current brand. Yeah. And then the next one and the next one. So it's a constant, it's quite challenging in the sense that you're constantly thinking, I need to be different from my last project.
Yeah,
like
definitely.
That was definitely
always being creative.
Yeah, that's definitely like the main focus, or that's what you're striving for in agency. And I think the muscle changes when you go in-house because yes, you want to bring that standard of quality with you, but the idea of a fast sprint, which is what I'm now calling a fast sprint, is 4 months. You're now thinking about it, the longevity of like years. You don't want to be doing it again for the same brand, so you want to get it right first time. So for me, like that shift into in-house has mainly been about making sure that what we do, A, it's the right thing, and B, it'll stand the test of time. Having said that, I think Revolut being what it is, like I said, we did the brand in 24, and then we pivoted because it's different because Revolut is such a ambitious company, and there's so much talent in house that we were able to do that. But it's also really data led, so we pushed it out. We got that first sort of insight or like feedback from it, and we decided to go again. I generally think the learning is just having that. It's a timing thing. You're working beyond the guidelines, beyond that batch of assets, and thinking more about how do you show up in the space. How do you even right down to performance marketing? Now I'm involved with like sponsored ads. It's the breadth of what I focus on as a brand now compared to what I used to consider. It's just a different thing.
Yeah, I get it. Jonathan, that I interviewed from Pentagram, he told me that because he did this move as well, and he told me that for him, when he was working in the agency, from the customer perspective, you look at the agency and you want them to bring like a perfection in one shot, let's say, and like I know it's a sprint of 3 weeks, 2 months. And at the end, you get something that has to be perfect and ready to use. Whereas when you're in a house, it's more like iteration over perfection. You have to do something, but at the same time, you know that I mean, you're in the company, and so the brand is going to last for a long time.
Yeah.
So you have time also to perfect your craft within the company, and not just being 100% sure that what you're shipping is going to be the right thing at first.
Yeah, that's such a good take on it.
Yeah.
And actually, when you've done both sides and you look back at the first realization for me was seeing an agency present to us, and it was stage one. It was, no real pressure. I think it was maybe after a few weeks of iteration and being sat brand side and hearing that presentation where it was so orchestrated and this is your
the
idea.
mock-up is finished.
The mock-up, yeah. And I was like, wow, is this what it really sounds like? And actually, again, it depends on the company. I think some companies will really respect and value that because that sort of, they need it. They need that security and that confidence. Whereas with Revolut, I think it's so ambitious and so hands-on. When we get presentations from agencies, it's show us the sketch, show us the raw idea. How can we be involved? Because again, there's so much talent, and it's a hard, complex product. Yeah. And so to expect an agency to get it right first time, so we loop in every relevant person to shape it a bit. It does become a very shared experience. But yeah, that's a really good take.
Okay. And so talking again about agencies, how, what was, because I'm trying to shape our team at KLIMB. We're still a little studio, but we are growing. And I'm trying to understand also how to orchestrate the different projects and where to put the talents on projects. And so I'm wondering what was the typical organization on the project projects you were working on at, let's say, Olins or other agencies. I don't know, one project manager, two designers, where they're working full-time or not. How do you also make sure that you have one designer available just to take the fire sometimes because you need to edit something? It
definitely varied from studio to studio.
Okay.
I think when I worked at places like Multidaptor, Ragged Edge, because they're, I think, smaller in the types of accounts and just in general studio, there's very much like team, and you have a few designers and it's all in house. It's all kept like if it's done here. Yeah. And then going to Olins, which obviously is more of a strategic offer anyway. Yeah. So there was actually more strats than there were designers at one point. I don't know if that's the same now, but it was very much a case, I felt, of when it got into the design stages, it was like, if we're doing 3D, let's make sure it's the right 3D for that idea. Okay. And that sometimes that meant, well, we'll outsource it. We'll partner with someone, or if it's motion, or like, so it was always a case of like, well, if you genuinely think this needs hand drawn, let's speak to the best hand drawn artist that we can. So it came from a different angle. It was like the resourcing changed. Yeah. Okay. Which again is a different muscle within a brand studio, and I did enjoy that because it kind of became like you were orchestrating a project. It really felt like it was limitless. If you wanted to do a certain style, you weren't restrained by like, okay, who's in the studio that can do that? We have only 5 designers and that's it. Which again, it's like super. It's a very luxurious place to be as a studio, to be able to say, okay, well, go and speak to that partner. And, so I get it. It's different shifts. Yeah. Okay. But yeah, in general, it was, at Olins, it was always, you'd have a strat or two involved. Okay. You'd have a project manager, you'd have a senior designer, a design director, maybe a junior designer. Okay. Quite nimble, quite small and nimble. Looking back at it, I mean, there were certain projects that were huge, and like you used to feel everyone getting absorbed onto the big projects, and but you were able to do that because it was like, well, you know, if you were a small project team, you were most likely you were working with a partner on parts of it anyway. So, very fluid, very sort of in movement.
I think, I mean, as we are growing, you know, in general, I'm seeing that the key differentiator for me to get the best deals possible for the agency is just to meet the right people and making sure that my network expands. But at some point, of course, it's not just my network, because if I bring like a ton of deals and we are not able to ship the quality, then we are in trouble. So I think it's just a question of balance, and this is also how I'm seeing it. I mean, it's been a year and a half, and now we're almost 10 people, and it's growing rapidly, I would say. And I think it's going to continue in this way. And I do think at some point you get one big deal, and it helps you to get that amount of cash that you didn't have to hire more people and so on. I think it happens like it's going to happen like this. But at the same time, I think it's also, maybe it's just also because that one big deal is going to be so well distributed at the same time when it's launching, that it's going to bring also similar customers.
Yeah, it's a circle, right?
Yeah.
It's exposure equals jobs equals new roles equals product, and then you go on that same circle again. Yeah, I mean, there was definitely every studio that I've ever worked for. There were people doing work that never saw the light of day. Like, it wouldn't go on they were the bread and butter, as we would say. Like, they would keep the lights on. I've worked on those accounts, you know, where people have been leaving the building going, you're keeping the lights on. It's like, cool. And so, I think every studio has projects that, you know, they're more important than people would imagine, and they don't get given the same stage. But then the other end of the spectrum is that if you are doing a project that is valuable, or like you feel like it would gain traction, definitely just sing from the rooftops about it. And again, at Olins, that was definitely a thing. It was like the amount of work that went into a case study. I think every studio that I've ever done, like the case study is always and that's come at the end as well, when you're like, there's fatigue because you've finished and you think you've done everything you can, and then it becomes about how are you going to spin that and make it really appealing to the next client. How does it work as like as farming essentially? And it's definitely a circle, right? An ecosphere of like, how do you generate more?
We have let's say 3 minutes left. I have 2 last questions for you that are a bit more like not really about either branding or Revolut or studios. One being, you mentioned a few times being a dad. How was your work-life balance in general? Having such a demanding job at the same time, and trying to build a family.
It's tricky. I mean, it's tricky. I think, again, being at Revolut tests that a lot, because it is very fast. I mean, I as personally, I'm kind of chronically online anyway. I'm always on my phone. And I'm one of those people who would rather know about any hiccups or any developments now than wait until I was online at 9. So in general, it doesn't matter. Like it's in the palm of my hand. I'll just get up to speed with things. It's really embracing of young families at Revolut. I think most companies have to be now. Like it's the way you treat employees. It's the right thing. It just happens. It works.
Yeah, it works. That's a good thing.
It's the working from home maybe that,
Do you have like a strict remote policy?
We have
open?
Completely remote, as it stands. So there's no pressure to come in. I think obviously with branding and design, like to be with each other
Yeah.
is super beneficial.
Yeah.
So I do encourage that, and we're obviously looking at like cards and physical product a lot.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, having that sort of remote offering is super mature from Revolut to know, like, okay, well, people have their own lives.
Yeah.
So to have that policy is really important. It's a really good recruitment thing. I think everyone really is grateful for that as a product.
Okay. Cool. And the last question I have for you is, what if you were not in branding and design and not a designer? What would you do?
I don't know. I used to say I'd work in a kitchen as a chef.
Okay.
And I don't know why, because having watched The Bear and all of those shows, it's like so stressful. And it's like it's a proper 24-hour job. I used to think I wanted to be a chef because...
you like to cook? I mean,
I like to cook.
Okay.
I also,
that's the start.
That's a good basis. You need to have that, I think. I used to draw similarities between like design and being a chef, which actually says more about the design studios I was working at the time, because it was just stressful and fast and ship it and pressure. And I used to think, I might as well be a cook at this point.
Okay.
But nowadays, I generally don't spend much time thinking about that. It's a good question. I used to think about it a lot, which probably says maybe I was thinking about other options. But no, nowadays I'm very grateful to wake up and do what I do.
Perfect. Good answer.
Is that a good ending?
It is. Thanks a lot for taking the time, Gareth. It was really nice to speak to you, discuss about a ton of different things, your life as a creative in design studios, of course, what you're doing at Revolut, and then just talking about different trends and stuff. So thanks a lot for sharing.
Likewise. Thanks for having me. Thanks,
you.
Michael.